Meditation is often presented as a single thing, as if sitting down, closing your eyes, and breathing automatically leads to clarity, calm, or insight. But meditation is not one practice, it's a category of practices, each one training a different relationship between sensation, perception, and interpretation. And if you don't understand what system it is that you're training, meditation can just as easily increase confusion as reduce it. So instead of asking, how do I meditate? A better question is, what capacity am I trying to develop? At the core of this lies a triad in the brain that constantly negotiates a single question. Do the sensations I'm experiencing make sense for the situation I'm in? And am I responding appropriately? Do the sensations I'm experiencing make sense for the situation that I'm in? And am I responding appropriately? This conversation happens largely between three regions, and this is where it gets a bit nerdy, but you don't have to remember the names. The left dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the anterior cingulate cortex, and the insula. Each of these three plays a different role, and meditation changes how strongly each one speaks and how each one communicates to one another. The left dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, or the DLPFC, is heavily involved in interpretation and decision making. When it's active, you're able to take sensations, physical or emotional, and contextualize them. It's what allows you to say, this discomfort is fitting and accepted, and this sensation doesn't fit what's happening. It's rational, but it's not cold. It integrates information rather than suppressing it. The anterior cingulate cortex, the ACC, brings in signals from the body. It could be heart rate, breathing, gut sensations, internal tension, things like that. It's deeply connected to what's called interoception. It's the sense of what's happening on the surface of your skin or inside your body. The insula, meanwhile, is more concerned about interpreting signals from the environment. It helps you read context, threat, safety, and salience in the external world. Together, these three regions are constantly comparing internal state, external context, and cognitive interpretation. Here's a simple example. If you're running and your heart rate is high, the DLPFC would interpret that sensation as appropriate. The ACC reports elevated heart rate, and the insula confirms that the environment demands exertion. Everything aligns. But if you're sitting still and your heart rate spikes, the mismatch triggers alarm. Your body reacts, anxiety, vigilance, fear, not because the sensation is dangerous, but it's just not supposed to be there. Meditation changes how this triad communicates. Now, mostly we would see what's called general meditation being practiced. It includes stopping, meaning just stopping whatever you were doing, sitting or lying down, and then closing your eyes. On the surface, this seems minimal, but neurologically, it's significant. Vision is one of the brain's dominant inputs, and when you close your eyes, you remove a massive source of exteroceptive data. What happens next is not silence, it's actually amplification. Perception works like a spotlight. Sometimes it's broad and diffused, and sometimes it's narrow and focused. And most of us can sustain roughly 2 spotlights at once. And when you close your eyes, you shut down one of the largest external spotlights. That attentional energy that was there, it doesn't disappear, it simply reallocates. Where does it go? To the surface of your skin, to your breath, to your internal sensations, to thoughts. This is interoception becoming louder in real time. As interoception ramps up, the anterior cingulate cortex, the ACC, and the insula increase their activity as well. For some people, this feels grounding. For others, especially those with anxiety, it feels overwhelming. Which brings us to a very important point. Meditation is not inherently calming. It's inherently revealing. The goal of many meditation practices is to heighten interoceptive awareness. But if someone already lives too far on the interoceptive side of the continuum, constantly monitoring their internal state, this can be massively counterproductive. That is why understanding where you sit on the interoceptive-exteroceptive continuum is crucial. Meditation doesn't, by definition, pull you inwards. It's not always supposed to pull you inwards. Sometimes it should orient you outwards towards your environment. A useful oversimplification is this: if your breath emphasizes inhale over exhale, you are biased towards alertness. Meaning, if your inhales are larger or more pronounced than your exhales, your body is biased towards alertness. And if it emphasizes exhale over inhale, meaning if your exhales could be prolonged, could be very aggressive, just more pronounced, you are biased towards relaxation. The breath is only one lever though. The deeper, more powerful lever is where attention rests. Learning to meditate is actually largely learning where not to look. There's a quote worth sitting with. It reads, "The ability to think about what is not happening in a moment is a cognitive achievement that comes at an emotional cost." The ability to think about what is not happening in a moment is a cognitive achievement that comes at an emotional cost. Now, who said this escapes me. That's beside the point. When you close your eyes and turn inward, you're increasing the brain's capacity for abstraction. When you're training your mind to operate independently of immediate sensory input. This is powerful, but much like anything else, it isn't free. Too much abstraction without grounding can detach you from the present. And too much present moment sensation without interpretation can overwhelm you. The balance is key. An interesting detail here that I would like to mention is that the brain doesn't actually feel physical sensation. During brain surgery, anesthesia is only required for the scalp and the skull, not for the actual brain tissue. The prefrontal cortex has no sensory receptors. So when the people sit down and focus on their so-called third eye, the prefrontal region, they're training attention on something that cannot produce physical sensation. What does that do? It brings thoughts, emotions, memories into sharper relief. Not because you're forcing them, but because you've removed competing sensory noise. This is why thought-based meditation can make emotions feel larger at first. You are not creating them, but you're amplifying your contact with them to a very high magnitude. Now this brings us to exteroception-based meditation. Instead of closing your eyes and collapsing inward, you select an external anchor, a fixed point in space, a flame, a sound, the sensation of gravity itself through your feet, visual horizon. Here, the insula remains active, and the anterior cingulate cortex quiets down slightly. This kind of meditation is stabilizing for people who tend to over-identify with internal sensation. It trains presence without an introspection overload. And to be honest, I'm pretty certain that most people don't even know that exteroceptive biased meditation actually exists. So the question isn't which meditation is best. The question is, what am I trying to regulate? If you're emotionally numb, interoceptive practices help you reconnect. If you're anxious or hyper-vigilant, then exteroceptive practices help you stabilize. If you're impulsive, prefrontal focused practices help you interpret before acting. If you're dissociated, embodied practices help you return. Meditation is by no means a moral practice. It's very much a neurological one. And the mistake is treating every technique as interchangeable. Different practices sculpt different neural habits. And those habits shape how you experience reality, even when you're not meditating. The real skill isn't to sit still. It's knowing which axis it is that you're training. Because awareness without interpretation leads to overwhelm. And interpretation without awareness leads to detachment. The goal isn't to escape sensation or drown in it. It's to align sensation, context, and choice. And that alignment doesn't come from meditating more. It comes from meditating in the right way. If meditation feels uncomfortable to you. That doesn't mean it's wrong, but discomfort should be informative, not numbing. If it increases clarity, stay with it. And if it increases confusion, shift the method. Meditation is not about forcing stillness. It's about refining perception deliberately. And once you actually understand that, the practice stops being mystical. It becomes very precise. I am rooting for you. You have a lovely day.